The Galactic Council chambers buzzed with a tension that rarely surfaced in this austere assembly. Today, the Council wasn't here to debate territories, technologies, or trade pacts. They were here to classify a new species. Though it wasn't unheard of, it was rare that a new race demanded the full Council's attention. The species in question? Humans. The Council's eldest member, a towering creature with crystalline skin and eyes like molten silver, tapped its segmented fingers on the table, signaling for silence. When it spoke, its voice was calm yet weighed with authority. There has been growing curiosity, even concern, regarding the inhabitants of a small death world known as Earth. A murmur passed through the chamber. Death world was a term reserved for planets deemed hostile to most forms of life, a status that usually marked their inhabitants as either incredibly hardy or completely inhospitable. But these humans hadn't stayed on their planet. Instead, they'd built rudimentary spacecraft, established communication, and begun their cautious exploration of the stars. They called their world Earth. Another council member, a reptilian with emerald scales, hissed. Its gravity is strong, its atmosphere turbulent, and its wildlife rather unforgiving. It paused, narrowing its eyes. By all accounts, they should not have survived, let alone thrived. But they have, chimed in another, an aquatic being whose words flowed like water. Reports indicate they adapt quickly, even when facing extreme environments. They conquer what others avoid. This curiosity could be dangerous. Curiosity. A word that had often heralded war in the Council's history. For ages, they had classified species based on their characteristics: herbivores, scavengers, hunter-predators, and the rare apex predators. Most species climbed slowly through these categories over millennia, evolving within their ecosystems until they reached the limits of their adaptability. But humans had somehow jumped past the expected thresholds, achieving feats in mere centuries that should have taken eons. One council member raised an appendage, its skin shifting hues with emotion. Rumors spread across our borders. Whispers of their wars. Tales of how they reshaped entire landscapes, subdued ferocious predators, and even turned their own destructive impulses into technological advances. The crystalline leader nodded solemnly. It's as if they thrive on adversity itself. Another murmur, this time one of reluctant respect. The council had seen aggression before, but there was a difference here. These humans didn't just fight to survive, they actively sought out challenges, almost as if hardship was a key part of their existence. A council advisor, small and fur-covered with large, observant eyes, cleared its throat. A study team could be dispatched to Earth. We could observe them, determine whether they pose a true threat, or if they are merely curious, as you say. Yes, replied the crystalline leader slowly, as if weighing each word. But let us be cautious. Earth is a death world, after all, and humans have developed with its dangers ingrained in them. They may be more dangerous than they appear. Perhaps we should consider an assessment on one of our worlds, suggested the reptilian counselor, its tail flicking with anticipation. One where we can control the variables. There were nods of agreement around the chamber. The aquatic council member added, this classification may be the most significant of our era. If they are indeed as adaptable as reports suggest, they could become a stabilizing force, or an uncontainable threat. The leader's crystalline skin glowed faintly, a sign of its intense contemplation. Very well, it announced. We shall assess them. But proceed carefully. Humans may not understand our ways, but they must not view this as a threat. The decision was made. The Council would send a team to Earth, using observation stations hidden across the solar system. Their goal was to gather data, verify the rumors, and uncover what truly defined humanity. But they would do so with the utmost discretion, keeping their motives hidden from the humans. As the meeting drew to a close, a sense of unease hung in the air. This wasn't like their typical assessments. There was something about this species that felt unpredictable, even in the data they had already gathered. If the humans were as formidable as the rumors suggested, this classification might alter the Council's understanding of survival, and of themselves. The Council adjourned, each member returning to their corner of the galaxy. But the image of Earth, small and deceptively peaceful in its position, lingered in their minds. The Council's scientific team arrived on Earth covertly, using advanced cloaking to avoid detection. They set up surveillance points across various terrains, hoping to analyze humans in their natural environments without interference. Their intent was simple: observe and assess. However, their initial impressions quickly unraveled into something far more complex. The first team stationed themselves near a vast mountain range. They anticipated that the cold, rugged terrain would deter most human activity. Instead, they found humans climbing to altitudes that would paralyze other species, equipped with minimal protective gear, and scaling sheer cliffs as if driven by some unseen force. Even more confusing to the scientists was the apparent enjoyment these humans exhibited, grinning and laughing in the face of heights that would reduce most beings to quivering masses. One alien observer documented a group of humans plunging into a snow-covered valley, where the temperature was unforgiving. They watched as humans crafted shelters from their environment, using snow and branches to create barriers against the cold. When a fierce storm rolled through, the scientists expected them to retreat. Instead, the humans lit fires, melted snow for water, and adapted their clothing with insulating materials they made by hand. The scientists adjusted their observations, attempting to understand what compelled humans to enter such hostile areas voluntarily. They soon realized that these environments were training grounds, places where humans deliberately exposed themselves to hardship, pushing their endurance and resourcefulness to new limits. The more they watched, the clearer it became: these people were not only used to danger but seemed almost drawn to it. Another team observed humans in sprawling desert plains, where the heat rose to unbearable levels. Yet the scientists witnessed humans crossing the sand, forming caravans to carry supplies and building structures to provide shade and preserve water. At night, temperatures dropped sharply, and the scientists noted how humans, far from being deterred, seemed to thrive by adapting to both extremes. They exchanged their gear, used star patterns to navigate, and shared knowledge of the landscape with each other. Their cooperative nature was evident, yet so was their ability to survive alone if need be. The observers also documented an unexpected phenomenon: humans who purposefully engaged in simulated combat. In crowded arenas, humans trained rigorously, often fighting with each other, sparring, and testing new techniques. But this wasn't simply aggression, it was structured, disciplined, and bound by rules. They would face each other in mock combat, shake hands after, and discuss improvements. This capacity for controlled violence was something the scientists found both baffling and disturbing. While other species saw violence as a last resort, humans honed it like an art form. The scientists grew increasingly perplexed as they documented Earth's animal life. Here were apex predators that were swift, powerful, and adapted to their ecosystems. Yet humans, armed with only rudimentary tools, could subdue them, and not always with direct confrontation. Humans employed snares, traps, and psychological tactics, using patience to wear down even the most dangerous creatures. They'd study their prey's habits, find weaknesses, and exploit them, showing a level of strategic thinking and patience that far surpassed what was expected. The council team witnessed humans demonstrating a remarkable ability to communicate, sharing their findings and tactics freely. When one human group succeeded in a particular strategy, others would learn it, adapt it, and refine it. Information flowed seamlessly between them, with no hoarding of knowledge or territorial disputes over tactics. This pattern of shared knowledge transfer was unlike any social structure the scientists had encountered, and it allowed humans to evolve their approaches to challenges at an astonishing speed. In their efforts to understand human resilience, the scientists encountered something even more profound. Humans seemed to hold a unique sense of empathy and loyalty. They watched humans risking their lives to help strangers, building complex support networks for the injured and elderly. They offered resources without expectation of return and created intricate social bonds that extended beyond mere survival. This compassion was a puzzle to the scientists, who had observed most species prioritize self-preservation. But here, humans willingly risked themselves for others, even those outside their family units. The scientists were forced to conclude that humans didn't just survive, they thrived under pressure, building connections and applying creativity in ways that transcended the individual. It was as if every hardship became a story, a lesson shared across generations and cultures. There was a persistence, a sense of hope that seemed deeply woven into their psyche. What they had mistaken for mere curiosity was a drive so ingrained that it felt almost like an instinct to adapt, learn, and push boundaries no matter the cost. As they prepared their reports, the scientists knew the council would struggle to comprehend the implications of what they had found. Humans were not merely adaptable or resilient, they possessed a unity of spirit, an insatiable hunger to explore, conquer, and protect. They were driven by forces beyond survival, a blend of ambition, compassion, and ingenuity that the galaxy had never before encountered. This was a species that didn't just endure, it transformed every experience into an advantage, sharing knowledge and caring for each other in a way that redefined what it meant to be a predator. In response to the Council's bewilderment, a decision was made: they would conduct a more rigorous, controlled examination of humanity's capabilities. They selected a diverse group of humans, scientists, soldiers, explorers, and transported them without warning to remote test environments scattered across the galaxy. Each test site replicated the conditions of the most dangerous planets, places where even seasoned warriors of advanced civilizations struggled to survive. The humans awoke in these alien landscapes with no instructions, no preparation, only their instincts and skills to rely on. Initial confusion quickly turned into resolve as they took stock of their surroundings. They understood they were being tested, though by whom or for what purpose remained a mystery. With characteristic adaptability, they focused on survival, applying knowledge gleaned from Earth's harshest regions. In one test zone, a volcanic terrain with rivers of molten lava and scorching temperatures, a soldier and a geologist immediately set to work. They scavenged for materials, crafting crude tools and setting up a perimeter to protect themselves from potential threats. They quickly identified sources of minerals that could help construct basic defenses and equipment, improvising solutions in a way that confounded the Council's observers. At another site, a dense jungle filled with toxic flora and aggressive alien predators, a biologist and a field medic banded together. They examined plant life carefully, cataloging species with potential medicinal value. Within hours, they had concocted remedies for minor injuries and repellents for the native predators. Their scientific approach, coupled with swift adaptation, allowed them to carve out a small safe zone, a feat that had proven impossible for other species. Meanwhile, a third group, consisting of an engineer and a survivalist, found themselves in a barren wasteland where temperatures fluctuated drastically, making shelter essential. They scavenged metal scraps and natural insulation materials, creating a structure that could regulate temperature and withstand the severe climate. By the end of the first day, they had constructed a makeshift shelter, managing to rest and recuperate in a space that protected them from the harsh environment. The Council was baffled by how quickly these humans adapted to environments that typically overwhelmed other species. Their individual ingenuity was impressive, but what stunned the observers most was how these humans had already begun devising plans to escape. With limited resources, they reverse-engineered pieces of alien technology found in their surroundings, understanding their mechanics at an extraordinary speed. The Council had expected survival, but they hadn't anticipated the humans' determination to outmaneuver their captors. As days passed, the Council orchestrated simulated threats to push the humans to their limits. They released predatory alien species into each environment, expecting that the humans would succumb to fear or aggression. But instead of panic, the humans formed defensive strategies, turning the terrain to their advantage. They set traps, used stealth, and observed their adversaries carefully, studying patterns and behaviors until they could anticipate each move. In the jungle zone, the biologist and the field medic lured a massive predator into a pitfall, trapping it with a makeshift net they had woven from vines. In the volcanic zone, the soldier devised an ambush, using the lava flow to corner a group of creatures, minimizing risk to themselves. In every instance, the humans relied on their knowledge of nature, adaptation, and teamwork, each maneuver precise and calculated. They not only survived, they systematically neutralized the challenges posed by their captors. To further test their limits, the Council deprived them of food sources, expecting this would push them into desperation. Yet, humans had anticipated such a challenge. In each environment, they had rationed resources from the beginning, showing a level of foresight that none of the Council's other test subjects ever displayed. They hunted when necessary, conserved energy, and used every scrap available to them, crafting tools that extended their survival far beyond what the Council had calculated. The alien observers were now facing a dilemma. These humans exhibited an unnerving combination of intelligence, resilience, and an unwillingness to accept defeat. Even more unsettling was the humans' response to captivity itself. Rather than break under pressure, they grew more focused, driven not only by survival instincts but by an unmistakable desire to understand and overcome their situation. Despite knowing they were being watched, the humans showed no signs of breaking, and instead shared silent, knowing glances, communicating with the smallest gestures. It was as if they understood each other's intentions instinctively, aligning their actions without the need for explicit instructions. Their cohesion, paired with their relentless problem-solving, had created a unity that was impossible to disrupt. In one moment that left the Council's scientists shaken, a human scientist, after constructing a communication device from salvaged materials, tapped into the frequency of another test site. The humans began sharing information across the zones, exchanging observations about the environments and strategies for survival. The Council hadn't anticipated this level of coordination across distances, another testament to humans' extraordinary adaptability. By the end of the testing phase, it was clear to the Council that humanity couldn't be contained or classified in the ways they had hoped. These humans had not only survived, they had transformed their confinement into an opportunity to learn, innovate, and connect. What had started as an experiment had become a display of humans' true nature, resourceful, indomitable, and capable of uniting under the most unlikely circumstances. The humans were no longer simply surviving, they were preparing. Each test that was meant to exhaust them only fueled their determination. The Council observers now recognized a stark reality. They had attempted to analyze humans, only to uncover something they could neither control nor fully understand. The humans' unbreakable resolve and resourcefulness unsettled the Council. What had begun as an assessment had shifted to a dire revelation. These humans were beyond any classification the Council could have imagined. Faced with beings who adapted faster and strategized more efficiently than any other species, the Council feared the ramifications of their experiment. As the days wore on, the humans weren't simply waiting for rescue, they had orchestrated one. The fragments of alien technology they had repurposed were now used to communicate and coordinate between the test groups, forming a clandestine network that bypassed the Council's surveillance. Word of the Council's atrocities began to spread among other species captured in similar assessments, and humans, true to their nature, rallied allies with promises of liberation. In each test zone, the humans communicated with prisoners from other worlds, sharing tactical insights and forming a unified front. Species that had previously endured the Council's oppressive hierarchy were now beginning to understand a different way of thinking. The humans' resolve inspired courage, and soon the Council's victims joined them, each offering unique knowledge and skills that enhanced the humans' plans. Realizing their hold on control was slipping, the Council sent armed forces to crush the uprising. But by then, the humans and their new allies were prepared. With precise coordination and an intimate knowledge of their surroundings, they transformed the testing environments into battlegrounds, repurposing every material at their disposal. The Council's forces, equipped with advanced weaponry, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn, ambushed in terrain that the humans had mastered through days of survival. Humanity's approach was meticulous, with strategic traps and counterattacks that left the Council's troops scrambling. In the harshest terrain, the humans exploited every environmental hazard, manipulating the lava flows, dense jungles, and frozen landscapes against their pursuers. Their unity with their alien allies became apparent as each species' unique abilities complemented the others, creating a force the Council had never anticipated. The humans didn't just overpower the Council's guards, they dismantled the very infrastructure meant to contain them. In the midst of battle, the humans leveraged captured technology to hack into the Council's communication network. Suddenly, The carefully concealed truths of these brutal tests were broadcast across the galaxy. Footage of the Council's experiments, coupled with scenes of the human-led resistance, reached every corner of the galaxy, igniting outrage among species who had once revered the Council. In the eyes of the galaxy, humanity was no longer an unknown variable. They were a force for justice, unafraid to confront corruption head-on. As they advanced, the humans and their allies breached the core of the testing facility. The Council, desperate and on the defensive, tried to negotiate, promising rewards and immunity. But humans had made their stance clear. They hadn't come to bargain, they had come to liberate. They seized control of the facility, freeing the remaining prisoners and dismantling the power structures that had oppressed so many for centuries. The uprising's final moments were marked by unity and resilience. Humans and their allies stood together, facing down the remnants of the Council's forces, and declared the end of the Council's oppressive assessments. For those who had suffered at the hands of the Council, this was a moment of reclamation, a victory against an age-old tyranny. In the aftermath, the Council, stripped of its authority, had no choice but to acknowledge humanity's strength. The classification they once intended as a title of containment now became a designation of respect and caution. Humans were officially recognized as the ultimate predator, a species marked by unmatched resilience, adaptability, and an unyielding commitment to justice. The Council's leaders, once revered, now found themselves under scrutiny, their power shattered. Across the galaxy, stories of humanity's courage spread. Species that had once viewed humans as mere curiosities now saw them as protectors and allies, willing to risk everything for freedom. The humans returned to Earth not as conquerors, but as champions of a new era, one where strength was measured not just by survival, but by the willingness to defend the oppressed. In every corner of the galaxy, humanity's legend grew, echoing a single truth: they were not merely survivors of a death world, they were the galaxy's ultimate protectors, prepared to fight for the freedom of all.